Everyone, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy. And in today's video, I wanted to kind of address head on a question that I get not that often, but once every couple months. And I have this information all over the place on my channel and in my blogs. I've pretty much documented my entire process of Play Cafe ownership from the beginning all the way through until now. But like I said, every once in a while, I get a question that is something along the lines of this. So somebody is essentially saying like, hey, your videos are pretty cool and stuff, but why would I want to learn about how to operate a business or how to be profitable in this industry from someone whose business is listed as permanently closed? And I want to start off by saying that this is a 100% valid question. I'm just pulling up my notes. This is a completely valid question. I would have asked the same exact question, but I swear every single time I get it, I go through like the 7 stages of grief really quickly because I feel like I've put so much time and effort into documenting my entire process, why we decided to sell our business, what our exit strategy was, why that was the plan from the beginning, why a lot didn't work out. So we weren't able to sell our physical location along with our business assets and brand and things like that. But I wanted to take a moment to create this video just to kind of put all that information from all of the different videos that, like I said, I have scattered around my channel into one place so that if this question ever does come up, I can kind of address it. Now, one thing that I think my students in my programs and the people that have been following my channel for a while, because honestly, the people that ask this question, I know right away have not been following for me for any amount of time because I, have been very honest about my entire journey and I've documented it thoroughly. So I know that the people who ask this question mean well, and it is a genuine, very valid question. So I try to remember that they just found me. They don't know my journey. They don't know my story. So like I said, I'm going to kind of break it down really simply in this quick video. So something that I think my students really appreciate about what I teach and the way I teach it is that I am an open book. In my courses, and especially in Playmaker Society, my group coaching program, I have never shied away from sharing the nitty gritty, the sales, the good months, the bad months, the times we almost shut down, the horrible things that happened to us the first couple years, the bad decisions that I make. I am a 100% completely honest and open book. And I teach just as much from the mistakes that I made and from the horrendous experiences I've had. Most of them were due to my own either negligence or breezing through parts of the business plan or getting overly excited about my location that I signed an absolutely terrible lease, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But I teach just as much from the mistakes that I made and from that place as much as I speak from my successes and what went right in my business. Because something that I have that not a lot of people have in this industry is so much experience. So we opened our cafe back in 2015. We ended up opening multiple locations. Everything was really difficult those first couple years. I wish that I had somebody who was a few years deeper in the industry than me to kind of ask these questions and ask what worked and what didn't work. But this industry, you'll see, doesn't like to share information. A lot of the owners keep everything kind of close to their chest and they don't like to divulge industry secrets. So I kind of let that be how I operated for many years. So like I said, my first couple years, I've documented it in several different videos, which I'll link below, didn't go so well. And I'm completely honest about that. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people don't end up recovering from those first couple bad years and they end up closing or they walk away or they shut down or whatever the case may be. Now, an experience that I have that not a lot of people have in this industry, and I feel very fortunate, is that we were able to come out the other side. So we were able to, after those first couple years of just grinding and not taking a paycheck, and like we were having great sales, but our expenses were just through the roof and we had staffing issues, we had operations issues. It was a complete mess. And part of it was because I had a surprise pregnancy and then a very difficult childbirth and a special needs child. And all that stuff is, again, elsewhere in my videos. I'm not going to get into that too much now. But like I said, essentially, we came out the other side. And after those first couple of years, everything clicked. And I figured out exactly what was going to transform my business. I figured out how I was going to pay myself, not just, paying myself a couple bucks here and there, but actually earn the living that I wanted to from my business. And I figured out what marketing strategies I should spend money on, which ones I shouldn't. Like I said, I figured it all out. And then not a lot of people, unfortunately, get to say that. And I have to be honest, when I started figuring things out, people could tell, right? Everything changed in our business. You could tell locally, you could tell from people who were doing research on this business model, because I was starting to get dozens of emails every single week and calls saying, "Hey, I love your business model. I see that you're doing really, really well. You just opened a second location. I would love to pick your brain and I would love to know more about this industry." And I would sometimes do these consulting calls and I would always feel kind of like an imposter, right? Because yes, I was successful now, but they didn't see those first few years of struggle and heartbreak. And like I said, the terrible, terrible grind. And my husband and I are just at each other's throats. So, I took these calls and I had at the same time this idea for this Play Cafe Academy course, but I shelved it for years because I had this constant thought in my mind, like exactly what that person was saying. Like, my business isn't as profitable as a lot of others. I struggled the first few years. Like, who am I to teach this stuff? But then it kind of occurred to me that, like I said, there is so much value and there is so much insight and experience, whether it's good or bad. But something that I'm really proud of and something that I really hang my hat on is that we did figure it out and we did end up cracking the code. Now, unfortunately, you know, and again, I'll link the videos where I talk about this in great detail. Well, let me back up a second before I get to the part what happened, what went wrong with selling our business. But essentially, something that I teach very specifically and I really harp on in my courses is that you need to go in this business with an exit strategy. Now, I have an entire, like I said, 20-minute video about this that I'm going to link. But essentially, I knew that my why behind this business, the reason that I wanted to run this type of business, wasn't so I could run it for 30 years and then, hand it down to my kids. I just knew that, I'm very fast paced. I like to implement, I like to, work on something. And then I kind of like to move on. Like, I was in corporate marketing. I went, I have a master's degree in economics. I kind of like to hop around. I knew that I didn't want to operate this business more than 5, maybe 10 years, because my driving force behind this business, it wasn't serving other parents. It wasn't, making lattes. Like, yes, of course, I wanted to make a positive impact on our community, but my why was always that I wanted to spend time with my kids while they were little. And I wanted to create a place for them where they could hang out with me and meet friends and be socialized and just create this amazing space that they would love and they would be able to look back on when they were older and just say, wow, like, remember all those years that we spent with mom behind the counter and playing in the play area. And, now I can look back and they had 5 of their birthdays there, each of them. Each of my kids had, I think, like 3 or 4 birthdays there at least. And that's really was my driving force. Once my kids started to be too old to participate in the play area and to have parties there, then it just kind of, all the fun went away from me. And I knew that. I knew that about myself well before I opened the business. So when I went to my husband and I said, listen, I want to quit my great paying corporate job and I want to start this cafe and play, I have to be honest, he was a little hesitant because, in our 10-year, 15-year plan, we always wanted to move. We wanted to travel. We were living way far away from all of our family and friends. And we knew that we didn't want that to be our forever. And he said, listen, I don't want to tie myself to a physical business. Even if you have a great operating system, even if you have a great team, you're still going to feel like this pull towards this one location. And I said, you're absolutely right. Here's my plan. I want to operate this business for 5 years. I want to get all of the systems down perfect. I want to create such a gem of a local business. I want to make sure that all of these systems and processes are documented so that I can, pass the torch to another local mom and I can kind of pass down this legacy, this business, and make it almost a turnkey situation so that, like I said, I could pass the torch to somebody whose kids were a little bit younger. And it turns out that's exactly what happened. Once my youngest child was around 3, he was the one with special needs. He has autism, so he didn't really like the whole indoor playground space. So I actually kind of, the fun kind of went away from it a little bit earlier than I expected because, of course, I never expected to have a child with sensory processing disorder or anything like that. So I decided, probably like year 3 into the business, once we started figuring everything out and we started figuring out what worked, we started documenting our systems. I said, listen, our lease is up in 2 years. We need to think about selling. And honestly, selling a business like this takes years. And it's very specific. It's so freaking hard to sell this type of business. Let me tell you, that's why I spend so much time in on this channel, in my courses, talking about how important it is to have your exit strategy going in, know exactly how long you intend to operate this business, and set up your business for sale from the beginning, even if you have no intention of selling, because you never know if you're going to have another child, if you or someone in your family is going to fall ill. So I always tell people to have an exit strategy and make your business sellable in a turnkey fashion from the beginning, or else you will never make a profit. So for like the last 2 years of our business, we worked with a broker. And like I said, we really started getting all of our tax returns together because, like I said, by this part, we were highly profitable and we were super proud of how far we've come. And we had more than enough documentation to show that our business was sustainable in the long term. So what we did is we put all this stuff together, we listed our business for sale, and then everything kind of came to a head, I would say like right at the end of 2019. So again, this is totally pre-pandemic, and we had a lot of interested buyers, but something that I've talked about a lot on this channel, and I'll link to those more detailed videos in the description of this video, but something that I've talked a lot about is the biggest mistake that I made with my business is I got overly excited about a location that had prime real estate. It's right on a main road. The lease was outrageously expensive, but I was like, you know what? This is worth it. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I only looked at like a handful of spaces. I rushed way into this. And unfortunately, the lease was deeply unfavorable to the tenant, to myself. Yes, we had a lawyer go over it, of course. And truthfully, they tried to talk me out of it a little bit just because I think it was $28 per square foot, meaning $28 per square foot. Our space was 2,500 square feet. That's how much rent you pay per year. And that was like 20 times more than any other space in our area. And they kind of told me like, listen, this is just not in line with rent prices. They're price gouging you. And I was like, you know what? This space is perfect. I can make it work. I went to business school. I can figure this out. Well, it turns out that not only was the lease deeply unfavorable, but it was also just a really bad set of people that I was working with. And I'm not going to, get into the details of that because I talk about it a lot in another video. But essentially, we kind of figured out and we came to terms with our broker that we were never going to be able to, not just in business sense, but in good, in my heart, I just knew I could never talk another business buyer, another tenant into purchasing this business at the current location. So our lease was over right at the beginning of 2020. I think our lease ended on March 1st of 2021, or excuse me, 2020. I'm getting all my years mixed up. So we got a ton of offers at the end of 2019. Our lease was up March 1st of 2020 because we opened in March of 2015. And we just kind of figured like, you know what? We just ended up recommending to the people that were making offers, like, we can certainly renew our lease for you and you can stay in this space, but it was very difficult. And I just couldn't in good conscience, just because of everything that went wrong with our landlords. And again, I'm not really going to talk about it because it resulted in a lot of legal issues, but just suffice it to say that we essentially sold our business as a bundle. So all of our assets, all of our brand, our name, our trademarks, our licensing deals, which we had already worked out, everything like that, we kind of sold it and they were planning on moving to a different location. Enter the pandemic in 2020 and that kind of got derailed. Now they at any time could open that business again if they would like to. Unfortunately, we're still very much in the pandemic in New York. It's been increasingly difficult for them to find it in their hearts to kind of continue with their plans. Now, luckily, we did sell all of our mobile play equipment and things like that, and that business has been absolutely thriving. The sort of soft play delivery, balloon delivery, things like that. But it just, I have a lot of guilt about it that we were able to get out right before the pandemic happened. But I also don't, because like I said, spent so long in a lease that was just terrible. And I don't blame anybody for that but myself. But that is one of my biggest driving forces behind why I created my programs. And like I said, I suffered from imposter syndrome for a really long time. I thought, who the heck am I to teach people anything when I made such a horrendous mistake with my lease? But I have to tell you, not only do I have the experience of making those mistakes myself and thankfully coming out the other side, not completely, because again, like I said, I couldn't sell my business as it was. I had to come up with some sort of like crafty deal. But not only do I have the experience of my own mistakes, I've now consulted with and helped over 200 similar business owners negotiate much better leases, come up with much more secure business plans. And my biggest strength is helping people get to the place that I was able to get to, that successful place where you're not only operating the business the way that you want to, so working as much as you want to, hiring as much as you want to, having your family and your kids involved as much as they want to. Not only do I help people design the business of their dreams, which looks different for everybody, but I help them get to the place that I got to so much faster than I was able to. And I use those mistakes and I use that hindsight. And my whole goal with this was to be open and free and generous with my experience and the information because so few owners do that. And like I said, when I get these comments, I kind of feel that like sting in my heart because I try to be very genuine and I try to be very honest. But, I felt so lonely and I felt so defeated in those first couple years where I was really struggling. And I just vowed to myself, especially when I was going through the process of selling and all of those complications, I just told myself, I was like, listen, I don't want any other business owner in this industry to ever go through what I did again. I never want them to make the same mistakes because I went to business school. I should have known better. But sometimes a lot of people in this industry make decisions from an emotional standpoint. Maybe they have an emotional attachment to a specific space and they end up overpaying, or maybe their child ends up falling in love with a particular space. So they kind of push their sense to the side to, oblige their child because everybody that enters this business has one thing in common, and that's passion. Passion about play, passion about creating a legacy for their family. Even if they do end up selling, they have a passion of bettering their community and creating a safe space for families. So that's something that is so common and so consistent with owners in this industry. And I said, this is such an amazing group of people. I never want someone to have to close, to have their life be financially devastated from entering this business. I want to be so open and, like I said, so honest and so free with my information that nobody ever has to go through this again. And like I said, I want people to get to the space that I was able to ultimately get to so much faster. And like I said, did I make tons of mistakes getting there? Yes. But I feel so lucky that I did what not a lot of people are able to do, and that is come out the other side. And now like I said, I've dedicated my life. I've found that I am a great teacher. And now that I don't operate a physical location, I really have the time and energy to dedicate to knowing everything about Facebook ads that there is under the sun. And I run Facebook ads for clients. I dedicate my time to auditing websites and looking over business plans. And I travel all over the world now and visit other play cafes and really look at their operating systems and their team and their spaces. And I'm able to, with a fresh perspective and with somebody, like I said, with a lot of experience with multiple locations, I'm able to give them recommendations that somebody who is deep in the thick of it is just not able to give. And I feel like that is such a gift to me. It's been the best experience of my life to meet this incredible group of entrepreneurs and really dedicate my life now that I am no longer, like I said, in the thick of it. Now that I'm out the other side, I feel so fortunate that I am able to give them that perspective and give them the time and energy back that is so difficult to find when you're operating a physical location, when you have a team, when you're focusing on all of this stuff. And this is, like I said, such a highly nuanced industry that normal business coaches just don't get it. So many things that you learn in business school or so many things that work in other industries just don't work in this type of industry. So that's something else that was really my motivating factor, is that there are a ton of people giving business advice, brick and mortar business advice, even family entertainment center business advice. But the small boutique, like mom and pop style play cafes or cafe and plays or whatever you want to call them, indoor playgrounds, play spaces, it's just different. Like I said, it's highly nuanced. And I feel, like I said, so fortunate to help people along their journey. And like I said, accelerate their success so they don't have to have those first few years of struggle that so many business owners do. And like I said, just to summarize everything, it all comes down to why. And why you're opening this business. And for me, I always had a plan going into it. I knew that I wanted to create these memories while my children were little. And I knew that I wanted to be able to pass the torch someday. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it the way that I wanted to, the way that I intended, but that just gave me the experience and the hindsight that I need to make sure that nobody else makes that mistake. And luckily, I have been able to help a lot of people navigate through that process. And like I said, I feel so fortunate that this is my life now. I'm able to, like I said, spend my time and energy coming up with resources and templates and applying all of my business and marketing knowledge to the indoor playground industry. And like I said, as someone who's been there, done that, I just feel so fortunate. And like I said, I completely understand where all of these comments come from, but also know that I'm an open book. You can ask me anything. Like I said, something that my students constantly say they love about me is that I share my losses and my wins. And trust me, I've had a lot of those. So I just want to thank you for listening to this video. Again, had a couple bullet points that I wanted to get to, but I just kind of got that comment last night. So I wanted to hop on while it was fresh in my mind and kind of explain, especially for the people who are new to my channel. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for letting me be imperfect and letting me share my mistakes and letting me share the things that went wrong. Because I think, like I said, just as much value comes from those mistakes as it does from my successes. Now, if I never figured it out or if nothing ever went right for me, would I suggest that you listen to me? Probably not. However, I hope that you will still allow me to share my entire journey and document it here on this channel and in my courses. So again, you can avoid all of the mistakes that I unfortunately made in this industry and also get to those successes without having to do the trial and error and the struggle. So thank you so much for being here. I hope this video was really helpful to those of you who are kind of confused about what happened. Like I said, I'll link to all of my other videos on this topic because I was documenting it in real time. And thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have an awesome day. And I hope you guys will join me in one of my programs so I can really walk you through exactly how much value I can provide and how much I can walk you through and accelerate your path to success in this industry. Because like I said, it's truly my life's calling now. Have a great day, guys.